Hello, and welcome back to Divorce After 50, the podcast where we have honest conversations about life, love, and new beginnings after divorce. I'm your host, Shari Frasure, and today we're tackling an incredibly important topic, forgiveness after divorce. Joining me is a very special guest, Debra Clem. Debra is a counselor, speaker, and writer who has helped countless people navigate the emotional challenges of midlife transitions, including divorce. She's passionate about helping people find freedom, peace, and healing through faith and practical tools. Debra, welcome to my show.
Hello, I am honored. Thank you, Shari, for asking me to be your guest today.
Absolutely. And so we're not going to wait any longer. We're going to start with the big question. Why do you think forgiveness is such a critical part of healing after a divorce?
Yes, over the years, I have learned that when you harbor forgiveness, it does not hurt the person that you're not forgiving. They go on with their married life just as it is. However, your unforgiveness will destroy you. It will take you down. If you harbor unforgiveness in any situation, it will destroy you and those that you love and care about that are a part of your daily life.
And that is so true. I've experienced that myself. And I think a lot of people struggle with forgiveness because they feel like it means letting their ex off the hook. And how do you help people reframe that?
Well, the only thing I can ever do is go by personal experience. And the one thing I do in my services that I offer to others, whether it's teaching spiritual growth and development, teaching women life skills development, whatever I've got my hands on, my thing is to always ask the Lord, Father, if you can use what you've carried me through and my personal experience to share into the lives of others and help them in their situations to rise up along the way, use me, Lord. That's my heart. That's my passion. So any way that I can do that when an opportunity is there, I will step up to the plate.
That is definitely something I think all of us just don't realize how big that backpack full of rocks that we carry around all the time. It just weighs us down and keeps us
Mhm.
stuck. But when you forgive, you put that down and you allow yourself to move forward and you feel
Yes,
lighter and freer. And it's
yes.
a great feeling. What about when people don't feel ready to forgive? How do you know when you're truly ready?
Well, every situation is different. And I'll just share a couple of personal examples. So I'll go back 20 years ago when my daughter passed. She got into a relationship that was taking her down a path of destruction. And it took her to her death. She was found dead in a hot tub of a hotel. That night, I sat before the Lord and I screamed at God, why did you allow this? And how am I going to forgive this man that has done this to my daughter? How will I get through this? And I sat there and the Lord showed me what I had already said to you. If I harbor this unforgiveness, it's not going to hurt him, but it will destroy me and my other daughters and anyone that I love and care about. So I poured my heart out to God and I said, Lord God Almighty, I can't forgive him. And if you can forgive through me, God, I will follow your lead, to the point that, and not being a silly, but this is where my emotions were all over the place, that the day I had to go to the funeral home, they had gotten married unbeknownst to anyone. So I had to allow him to be part of anything that was happening. And when my pastor said, Debra, what are you going to do when you get there? And I said, do you want to know what I'm going to do or what I want to do? Because I cannot do what I want to do. God says, you let me take care of this. I said, I want to hit him and shake him till his eyeballs pop out. And that's normal.
Yeah.
Isn't that how we all handle things? But God said, no, you just treat him with respect and let me take care of the rest. And I was able, and I had asked God to show me how I would get through this. And he spoke his word to me that his grace is sufficient in our times of weakness. So I would daily pray and ask God to fill me with his grace. And he allowed me and gave me strength where I was weak. And through the process, I was able to walk in that forgiveness because God was leading the way. And so that's one of the lessons. And then in 2017, after 36-year marriage and many time over the years, a lot of things had happened, and I would address it. And again, step up in anger, screaming matches, you name it. We did it.
Mhm.
And he would say, "Oh, forgive me, Deborah. Please forgive me and give me another chance. I won't do it again." So I would. This happened repeatedly for several, over, like I said, I've been married 36 years. Come 2017, an action on his behalf, his consistent behaviors again, brought forth a situation in our lives that devastated and caused issues on of our best interest, myself, my daughters, anybody involved in our life. And again, I had to go before the Lord, and I'm crying out to God, what is wrong with me? Why can I not forgive this time? What is wrong with me? And in my morning devotions and prayer time, I literally saw my arm outstretched, and God showed me the reason I was having a hard time was over the years, there have been so many times of the pain and the hurt that it caused the cuts and the wounds up and down my arm. I saw this visual, and there were little Band-Aids stuck on the wounds. And I had always put the salve on it. "Oh, it'll be okay. We'll just keep on going. Don't worry about it, Deborah. It's all going to be okay. We're going to get through this." And I never dealt with the pain, the reality. And sometimes that's what we do. We hide and don't face reality of what's really happening that's causing this to come against us. So it layers up.
I have experienced it myself. I actually forgave infidelity once, and it was very,
Mhm.
very difficult. And then, 10 years later, it happened again. And
Yes.
it didn't take me as long to forgive, but our marriage ended over it.
Right.
And, it's been
Right.
a process. You don't do it just one time.
No,
You have to continually do it till you really do feel forgiveness and get that lightening of the load. Uh,
exactly. Exactly.
and
So,
it doesn't mean that you won't feel hurt, because I mean, I still have moments when I feel hurt over, when I remember things. But you have to make that choice, right?
amen. Yes. And so at that time, like I said, I was praying and pouring my heart out and asking God to show me. And that very day, it was February of 2018, I opened up my emails to do some devotions that I did daily. And two different resources, Joyce Meyer and Rick Warren, were both starting a series of teachings on forgiveness. And I was like, God, you are so good. You're going to teach me what I need to know here. So went through several days of that, letting the word of God soak in and help me to understand what I needed to do. And then Rick Warren says one day, let's talk about what forgiveness is not, because so many times people don't understand what forgiveness is versus what it is not. And he explained that forgiveness is not remaining in a position where someone else's, key word here, their consistent behaviors are affecting your well-being. And oh my, that was a turnaround for me. And I knew that even after 36 years, that yes, I had forgiven and kept going, forgive, keep going. But I saw anew that God was saying, this time you have layered this over the years, and it is okay. I knew the voice of the Lord said, Deborah, it is okay to release, because what this has done now, the years of the consistency and how it has affected your well-being. But this circumstance is so deep that it has severed the relationship. And you walking away does not mean you're not forgiving. See, sometimes we think, well, if I'm going to forgive, I have to stay there. But that's not true. You can forgive, but depart from the damaging circumstances around you. And that's okay. And that's what I knew I had to do. I sat down, I talked with him calmly. I was able to explain through the leading of the Lord that these situations that continued to layer had gotten to a place that I could not remain because of how it was affecting me and my well-being. And I explained that with time, I would step away. I did not know the when, but at the time, even we were living in separate houses because of the relationship. But I knew it was God released me, that it's okay to depart and end the marriage relationship.
Do you
And
think
so,
at that point you had forgiven yourself enough?
yes, I had to go through a season of healing, and that's what people don't always understand. But when I told him and I looked at him and I said, we need to remain civil. We need to retain a civil relationship, even though we're going to be divorced, because in our personal lives will be different than they are now. And I said, because we still have our children and our grandchildren, and we need to do what's best for them because it's not about us. We need to take the healing for ourselves, but be what we need to be for our children and our grandchildren. So, yes. And of course, at that moment, he did not agree at all. He questioned me and how I could do this to him because he would try to do it. He'd always tried his best. And I even said, forgive me. I know I have made mistakes. See, sometimes we fail to say to the person we need to forgive. Maybe there's something we need forgiveness for at the same time. It doesn't take away one from the other.
Right.
And so you have to sometimes forgive yourself for mistakes you make in order then to ask the other person to forgive you. So proceeded forward in 2019, did go through the divorce legally and officially, and moved back to where, I was from, the Winchester, Clark County area. I had lived up there where his hometown was in northern Kentucky, Owen County, for 36 years and raised my children. But with all that said, Shari, the main thing is people that see us are astounded. And I count that and give glory to God because, yes, we each had to go through a season of healing. So this didn't happen immediately. But now, whenever we have grandchildren, children's birthdays, Christmas, we gather at my home. And the girls know you can invite your dad. He can come and be part of this. Because this is a gathering for our family, not just about he and I. We do this together. And I know he struggled a long time to get to that point. What people have got to understand, it's okay when you come to a point to realize forgiveness might require or you need to disconnect. It doesn't mean you're not forgiving, you're not running from it, but it's okay to disconnect if you need to move forward. And also realize that you may need to take time for yourself. Personal healing, it's not a one and done deal. It takes time. And sometimes behaviors can resurface or rise back up, and you've got to step back and know that it's okay to take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times we beat ourselves up because we want to start feeling better and we don't want to hold that
Mm-hmm.
unforgiveness, but
Right.
it's so hard to let go of it, especially when they continue to hurt you, and a lot of times, even after the divorce, long after the divorce, there's still a lot of pain and things that happen that keep, opening
Yes.
up that wound again, and it's just really hard to move on unless you're already there for yourself, and I think that that's really important that we realize that we have to take care of ourselves first.
Right. And I will go on and share the latest nugget of this relationship. The early part of this year, a close friend of ours, their children grew up with our children, and this lady passed away, and I went up for the funeral at our local church there where we attended when I lived in the area. He was there, and one of my daughters, Victoria, was with him, and we were sitting there, and I was sitting with some friends from up there that I hadn't seen for several years, and we were just reconnecting, and then he and my daughter were sitting, across the church, and And again, that's okay. We can do that. We can be in that setting together. And I kept noticing, and he just lives like 2 miles from the church, and then I had to get back to Lexington. And I kept thinking, why are they hanging around, And as I was talking to some friends and that I hadn't seen for a while, and finally my daughter came over and she said, Mom, she said, before you leave, she said, we'll be waiting over here. Dad's wanting to talk to you about something. I said, oh, okay, sure. Well, when I stepped over there, he looked at me and tears started pouring down his face. And he said, Debbie, I don't think I've officially done this, and I need to do this. I said, okay. He said, forgive me. Please forgive me when I wasn't the man I should have been in our marriage. You're a good woman, and I didn't do it right. Please forgive me for the hurt. And so I, in turn, looked at him and said, yes, you are forgiven. I forgave you. And we move on and be the man and woman that we're to be for God and for our children. And we each walk in forgiveness. And Shari, the release, there was, even though I felt like all those years and going through my healing, I knew I had forgiven, that there was something about that when the one-on-one that had never taken place, acknowledgement face to face, and each of us saying, please forgive me.
That's very healing, though, that he was able to ask for your forgiveness, because many times you don't get that.
Right, exactly.
Do it.
And it may not always happen.
Yeah.
And for whoever's listening here, I want you to know that you haven't done anything wrong if that doesn't happen. But I feel like the Lord was working through each of us in a different way. And that was part of our process. And but everybody's circumstance, Shari, will be different. It's not a cookie cutter mold that everybody's exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so what I try to teach people to do is, yes, what I had to do was lay my heart before God and ask him to lead, guide, and direct me and teach me what I was to do in my situation. But I also know that someone else's circumstances could be totally different. And they, in turn, what I would do with them if I was talking with them is pray with them and ask God to help them to see what they needed to do, their step-by-step process to go into the forgiveness for themselves and for the others.
What are some of those steps?
I would meet with someone and, depending on when they're ready, they can share their heart, what their circumstance is, and then we pray together. I always pray with whoever is going through whatever, and then they're free to ask me any questions. It doesn't mean that I have all the right answers, but again, I can talk to them about what I've personally experienced and pray with them and ask God to give them insight and guidance, what their steps are to be. And sometimes you got to step out of your comfort zone. If you hear the Lord tapping on your heart and telling you to do something. And here's the other thing that I think you got to be really careful about. Be careful who you take advice from, because some people, they can just tell you what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to be critical, but there's a lot of people that can tell you what you need to do. But the question is, do they really understand your situation? And they may have been through trauma themselves, but what they needed to do is not always what you need to do. So you need to be surrounded with a support team, or like I said, talk with somebody one-on-one that you can trust and share and look at each step of the process, because it's time. It takes time. Healing is not a clap your hands, it's over, it's done, move on. No. Healing takes time in any circumstance that forgiveness is in the pot. And you've got to allow that within yourself. You got to be willing to allow the process of the forgiving to take place.
Which is so difficult because there's so many emotions that you're going
Yes.
through, and there's times when you just, you're hurt, you're mad,
Mhm.
just feel like it's all your fault, that you deserved it, and you gotta process through all that before you're able to open up and talk to somebody else. And if
Exactly.
somebody that is not doesn't have your best interest, or that is going through the same thing you are, they're not gonna be able to give you that kind of advice. So, I think
Exactly.
that's really important that you get to that point.
And I think sometimes in your situation, we were talking about divorce and stuff after 50. And I'm not saying everybody just needs to jump up and get a divorce. I'm not saying that at all. Not at all. If you can forgive and remain and work through it and keep going, and each of you turn it around, then hang in there and do it. But again, in my situation, and I go back to what Rick Warren said, it's the consistent.
Mhm.
We all make mistakes.
Even when they
And
know
any
that they've hurt you, and you've
and then
talked
they yes.
and they've said they're sorry and they will never do it again, and they still continue to do it. That
Yes.
just shows you that you gotta
Mhm.
believe who they are, you gotta believe it.
Right. And please understand, this man, Victor is his name, he was not a physically abusive,
Right.
okay?
Mhm.
But it was his everything for him was about him. Example, we didn't have the money to pay necessary bills,
Mhm.
but he demanded he wanted a new phone and he wanted the best. And I'm using an old cracked phone, trying to use it to work my business, but he had to have the newest version, the best, because I want it. And that's what he said. When I said, "Why do you have to have that phone?" "Because I want it." So hear my heart.
Yeah.
Those were the consistent behaviors. And then they just grew to the in depth of demoralizing and causing more and more different types of demeaning and destructive things into my life. And that's when I said, I just can't. I've raised my kids. And when my daughters, both my adult daughters looked at me in 2017 when something had taken place, a decision he made that really set me in a place. And my girls said, "Mom, go take care of yourself. It's okay. We understand." And then I had to tell them, "Forgive your dad. I'm
Mhm.
going to forgive your dad. You forgive your dad." Because I didn't want them to harbor that as well. So when I went through my healing, we had conversations ongoing. So with that, and then they have, personal things, of course, they've experienced as well. But
Mhm.
so I just, again, I go back to, if God can use me and my story and what he's taught me through personal experience to help someone else along the way, I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
Well, this has definitely been very helpful, I think, that we just have discussed how to forgive, and once you're at that point and you're ready to start over, I know your story, so I just wanna ask you, because this is a big question, and I know that all women, especially at this point in their lives and after a divorce, how do you keep how do you reenter the dating world?
That
Or
was a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yes, you do know some things.
right.
And but I wasn't real concerned about that for a while.
Mhm.
I just needed time for me. And my one daughter, it was kind of funny because she's like, "Mom, I don't like seeing you alone. Go find you there. You know all these people. Don't you want to go out? Don't you want to?" I'm like, "No, I just want to be me. I just want to do my thing. I'm not interested. I'm not looking for a man, thank you."
Mhm.
And so, but with time, so got the divorce in 2019, and then about 2021, and then I had a couple of friends that I knew for years and off and on, in different settings, and we would go to dinner and everything. And then come about 2021, I just started saying, "God, I'm 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 enjoying, the companionship side of it." But again, I was afraid to jump in because you are worried, especially at this point. I'm 60 years old,
Mhm.
and you're thinking, what if? What if I go do this again and then, get knocked off my feet? So Again, I think everybody's situation is going to be different. But the one thing I do know is check the motive. What is the motive of the person that is saying he wants a relationship with you? Is it something he's needing for him personally, which is okay? But what's his motive for you? Why does he want to be in a relationship with you? So check the motive and watch the heart and be observant. Watch those behaviors. Learn about the person before you jump into a commitment and take on more than you wish later you had. And so take those past experiences, but then also know that just because you had a past experience, it doesn't mean that every man is going to be like that. Or vice versa. If you're the man, it doesn't mean every woman is going to be what that woman was. And even with my current relationship, there's things that he has wounds from his past relationship. And one thing I would caution you be careful to do, and then also make sure it's not done to you, is don't carry the hurt from the previous relationship into the new relationship and blame the new partner for what somebody else did. And that happens so often.
Yeah, it's really hard to
Yeah,
get past because
right.
it always brings back things to you, and you have
Yes.
to understand that that's not the person. It's just the
Mhm.
circumstance or something that an experience.
But I say, watch their consistent behaviors. And I mean, seriously, watch the consistent behaviors.
Mhm.
Observe of the new person you're spending time with and building a relationship with, and check the motive. Those are two things that I learned to do.
Debra, I just want to thank you for being so open with everything. I know sometimes it's hard to talk about things on a personal level, but just like you said, your heart is to help people that are going through what you did. And if you can use that pain and everything to help others work through it, then you and I both have the same heart. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited about having you come on and talk about forgiveness. So, at this point, I'd just like to ask you to tell people how they can get in touch with you if they feel
Oh, absolutely.
they need you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I do lead some Facebook prayer groups. If you would like to connect with me, I don't mind sharing my phone number. Is that okay, Sherry, if I do that?
Sure.
Okay. You can reach me. You can text me or call me at 502 517 6001. That's 502-517-6001. And just send me a text message and we can set up a call, a time to talk, and go from there and see if I may or may not be able to help you in your situation. But I will if I can. And then also, if you're interested in knowing more, you can also personal message me. I am on Facebook. My Facebook name is Debra, Debra, middle initial K, last name Clem. And you could come on Facebook, find me on Facebook. Also, you could send me a personal message on Facebook and ask me to get in touch with you, and we can. I've got different Facebook groups that I lead that are just geared toward prayer, but I'd be glad to get you on those. Those are private groups, but also let's just get connected. I do have a business, a consulting services business called Pressing On, and I'm just laying the foundation to start launching some workshops. Should be starting to do those at the first of the year. And there will be different workshops that I will offer that you can come to for training. And then after that, if you want one-on-one time, we can always work on that, down the road. So just get in touch with me and I would be glad to talk with anybody that I can help.
Wonderful. And to our listeners, remember, forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself for the next beautiful chapter of your life. If you
Yes.
enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with friends who needs encouragement. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep moving forward.